Hi, everyone, and welcome to Primary, Secondary, and Technology Resources. Oh my! Today we're going to have a brief look at how to incorporate text into everyday lessons. So, one of the reasons why it's important to look at text is because our Read to Succeed legislation requires that we focus on literacy K through 12. And there's a misconception that reading and writing is only supposed to be taught in English classes. They're not the only ones that are responsible for it. We know that currently in English 1, SC Ready, and ACT, they all have a major focus on text-dependent analysis, but this is exactly what we do in social studies. We call it DBQs or text sets. And even if you don't have time to do a full DBQ or a text set in your classroom, we can still provide our students with primary and secondary resources that help them learn those same critical thinking skills that help them to analyze sources and come to better conclusion of why these events that happened in our history are so important. So today we're just going to do a quick, brief look at primary sources, secondary sources, and some technology resources. So why should my students be exposed to primary source documents? Well, number one, we know that it offers them multiple perspectives of a specific event. A lot of our students come to our classes knowing about history, but knowing it basically from the perspective that fits their own lives. Looking at primary source documents allows our students to look at events as they were written at that time period during history, but also to look at it from perspectives of multiple different people who were part of that same event as it happened. It helps us to develop knowledge and analytical abilities, and it helps our students to actually formulate questions and to think more critically about the information they're learning, and to come up with their own explanations and interpretations of events. And it also allows our students to think about history in a more personal way, because putting that document in front of them and showing them the original document where someone actually handwrote a letter, or seeing an actual picture from an event, brings our students closer to the information we're relaying. So where can I find primary source documents? You can find them almost anywhere on the internet. A simple Google search will take you to several different websites that are actually very good websites. I've created a Google Doc that just lists a few of the places you can go that have some U.S. history-based primary source documents, world history-based. So world history would be good for 6th or 7th grade, as well as 10th, or even world geography, depending on what you were talking about. And then U.S. history would cover most of the other content areas. But there's some really cool things on here. One of the things I would suggest is American Rhetoric. Students can actually hear speeches given by most of these are given by the individuals who actually said them. You have a couple that are done by actors, but they can hear the speech given by the person that wrote the speech. And you can still use this and incorporate some great things in your lessons. The Google Life Photo Archive from Life Magazine gives them resources of different photos that you could use to do gallery walks and those kinds of things. And the National Archives, as well as the Library of Congress, has plenty of primary source documents for you to use with your students. So I would take some time to just go through this list and see if there's anything that's user friendly. You will have to spend some time searching through to find things that are friendly for your classroom, but regardless of what you find, you are most likely going to have to modify it for students who are lower level readers, or for any of your other needs. So just be ready to do that when the time comes. Secondary sources. Why should I use secondary sources in my classroom? These are commentary or discussion about your primary source documents. So even though the primary source documents gives our students a close look at individuals that came from that time period, a secondary source can really help our students sort through the information about that time period. It can give them multiple perspectives. It can help them gather more information about a primary source or about individuals in history that we've learned about. And so it's always important to supplement our primary source documents with some secondary sources. So again, where can you find these? These can be found anywhere. Biographies, magazine articles, monographs about a specific topic, a book review or music review. All these things are secondary sources that we can introduce our students to very easily in our classrooms. Web resources. So what I've done is compiled 4 different web resources that you can use that primary and secondary sources with that will help your students kind of analyze these documents a little bit better. The first one is a ThingLink. And ThingLink is a paid site, but you do get a free 30-day trial, and you can upload one class to it during that 30-day trial. But it allows you to upload images and provide commentary and video to a specific site. And students can be guided through what they're actually evaluating and look for. You can include questions, you can include videos. Like it says, you can do a Google Doc that asks your students to respond to something and collaborate with your students in that way. So it's very easy to work with a ThingLink, and I'll show you a quick example. Here's one I did for a group of 8th grade teachers on Reconstruction, and as you can see, you've got a very familiar image about Reconstruction with African Americans voting for the first time, but when you put your mouse over it, you can see that there are specific letters the students can click on, and you can use these letters to just provide some background information or ask questions. You can include a video link for your students to refer to. You can even include a link to your Google Classroom or to a Google Doc for students to use as they are navigating through this document. So really cool website that you can use. Again, it is a paid site. It's only $35 for the year. So if you have a little extra money and this is something you think you could use throughout your school year, spend that $35 or ask your principal if there's a school credit card, if they would purchase this for you, but ask them first if they will purchase this for you as something that you think you could use in your classroom. The next is Edpuzzle or Vilog, and Edpuzzle is another example of where students can or teachers can actually include video. You can watch a video with your students, and then in that video you can ask your students questions, and it keeps a log of your students' progress and how they have gone through the video. I would click on this, but I don't want to get involved in any copyright, so I'll just show you that there. But again, Edpuzzle gives you a trial, and then you can purchase it later on. Vilog does the same thing as Edpuzzle, but Edpuzzle is a little more class friendly because Vilog doesn't allow you to upload your student information. Other web resources, the National Archives, even though this isn't a web resource, but it does offer you some updated analysis documents. These are just updated this year in 2017. So if I'm going to analyze a photo, this is the new analysis document that helps you break it down and analyze it some more. So this is it just provides you with a link to some things that you can print off and give to your students, or you can send this to them from your website. So I would check those out, the new updated forms. They're a lot more user friendly. The last web resource that I have for you is docent.edu, and this is a really cool website also because you can take any website and I'll show you especially some. You can take any website and you can add in your own video. Here's an example of a Prezi that was put in place in the middle of an article on a website. You can highlight words that your students may not know. You can include video into it. You can ask questions, and you can do this with any website that's available. So again, another really cool way to include a secondary source or even a primary source into your lesson and have your students work with that material. All right, how can I incorporate these into my classroom? It doesn't mean that students have to sit quietly and work alone when you're working with these documents. It also means that students can work collaboratively to investigate these primary resource documents. So on the next few slides, I'm just going to give you 2 ways that you can work with primary or secondary sources in your classroom collaboratively. So the first one is collaborative annotations. Basically, you can choose a resource that's highly debatable, that's going to be interesting to your students. You can blow it up so it's on large font paper, and you want to make a copy also for every 3 students. So basically what you're going to do is, if we go down to step 1, each student in the group is going to read the articles silently to themselves. Next, the teacher is going to read the article aloud, so modeling for our students. And then the third step is that students are going to reread the article, and then they're going to begin to write their comments, reactions, feelings, questions, connections in the margins that you've posted that article on. So they can write all over it. Usually you want to give your students a different color pencil so everybody's writing in a different color so you can see the difference between who wrote what. So after the students have annotated the text, you'll give them some time to read what their other group members wrote down, and then give them a time to actually respond to each other. If students are not working, you should have your own teacher-colored pen that you will go in and you can write something on there to move the conversation along so that students will begin to converse again using the paper. The next step is that once students are done with that with their groups, they will hang these up along the walls of your classroom, and then you'll have a gallery walk for students to walk around and look at how other groups actually interpreted the text that you put in front of them. So that's a pretty cool way of getting your students to work collaboratively to dissect a source. The next thing is carousel brainstorming. So same concept, groups of 4 this time, but you're going to come up with different prompts before you even read the article, different question prompts on a different piece of chart paper that you're going to post around the room or lay out on the desk in front of them, and you're going to give each group a specific amount of time to brainstorm possible answers that they might have, and once time is up, you'll tell them to freeze and stop and move to the next poster. So group 1 will get to make a list of answers to your prompt, and then when they move to the next list, they'll kind of attach their next new answers to what the group before them did. And so if you have 4 different posters, students will go around to all 4 posters and add to those lists. As you get to that 3rd or 4th list, it may be a little bit harder to add more things to the poster. So if that happens, then again, you want to give a shorter amount of time for students to work. But once that's done, you're going to end that gallery walk and just have the students go back to the original posters to observe the answers that were added to their list. And then once they do that, the students, once they've reviewed other lists, you're actually going to have the students sit down and read the article that you've chosen. So the first half of the activity, the carousel activity, kind of got them interested with question prompts. The last half of the activity will be for them to just review, actually read the text. And then once they do that, they'll be able to go back and annotate on that article you've given them. Refer back to the charts. What was the information that you were familiar with in the charts, and what was information that you didn't mention or that was interesting or new? And then you want to have a whole class discussion about what they found. Anchor charts are also a great way to help students annotate. So here are a few examples of what those annotations look like. I would have these posted in my classroom somewhere that I could refer back to for my students multiple times. But these just give students kind of a refresher or a way to look at how to annotate the text as they go through. All right, so please use the link for further feedback on this session. thank you all, and I hope that you got